Hi there, welcome to Single Dads Unplugged. This is season 5. We are recording at the International EmpowaMen Summit, and it is in Randburg in Johannesburg. We're so excited. It's hot, but it's buzzing. I think it's hot because there's just so much excitement in the system. I'm seeing a lot of men coming around, having a good time, interacting and sharing stories and interacting with other dads. This guy is a regular guy because he does not need to be introduced. My friend, my co-speaker, my partner, Martin Pelders.
How are you, brother? I'm good, man. Good.
What have you seen? I mean, what has been happening so far? You've been inside since the morning. What have you seen?
You know, it's interesting. So it's you know, I mean, my kind of flavor is GBV and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, they talking. I mean, John Carney was mind blowing. I mean, he's
What's this guy?
man, he's just amazing. He's so should I say Dr. John Carney? Because he is now, amazing. I mean, he's just the man who's like for the people and calls out politicians, tell them they're thieves. Amazing dude. I love him. Yeah. And this year I'm going to get a picture with him. I'm going to.
We must.
Yes,
You and
definitely.
me
I'll corner him.
Okay.
But GBV, and it's nice to see that we're getting away from the fluff. We're getting away from the nonsense, the normal narrative. Men, you bad. Men change. You know, and we get into the deeper stuff. And I'm meeting a lot of people now who are in the mental health space, and we're starting to realize the turn is coming, right? Men need help. The awareness that men are struggling with their mental health and that we need to start changing things it's happening. It's happening.
I mean, 27 speakers in like 6-7 hours, but I'm glad to see that the mental health stuff is starting to come to the fore. It's not just about parenting or kids anymore. Eh? Are you saying the same?
No, same thing. Yeah, I mean, today's topic is what? Zero suicide. Right? So again, you know, I mean, we need to realize like 75% of all suicides are men, and the conventional way of dealing with it is not working. It's not. You know, when we start saying, well, you know, a guy goes for therapy, hey, I'm struggling, right? And he goes firstly to a female therapist, right? And then she sits there and she's been taught to say, well, it's because of toxic masculinity and patriarchy that you are struggling. So it's almost like you're being blamed for being a man, for having suicidal thoughts, you know? And a lot of guys walk away. So guys come to me and they go, you know, I've been for therapy, but they just don't understand, you know. And generally, it's not going to be funny. I'm not being sexist here, but they just go, she doesn't understand. There's things that men understand when we talk to each other, and there's things that just women will never understand. Right? That's the thing.
We were talking,
and there's that awareness of this.
We were talking to that guy earlier from the men's clinic that sometimes men are reluctant to come out to clinics for help. It doesn't matter who's sitting across the table. How do we encourage them, especially for things that are physical, that are medical?
So I'm going to use your platform to try and launch something, dude, because your platform is so amazing and it's got such a huge reach. Now I want to start a thing called Have You Got 8 Minutes?
Oh, what's that about?
Right. So actually I'm stealing this from, what's his name, Gary Sinek.
Oh, yeah.
And he said a friend of his phoned him one day and he said, yeah, how you doing? I'm fine. And then he said, listen, I'm actually busy. Like, can I call you back? And he never did. And the next thing you hear, she came out of hospital. And he like phoned her and said, what happened? Why didn't you call me? And she said, well, you know, I'm embarrassed. I tried to commit suicide. And he said, but you phoned me. Why didn't you say anything? He said, I felt embarrassed and you were busy. And so he says this thing, why don't you phone somebody, and if you really need to talk, say to them, have you got 8 minutes? Because that's all it takes. 8 minutes just to unpack.
To unpack and share.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Is it what you want to do?
So I want to kind of steal Gary's idea and kind of initiate that in South Africa. Well, you find a friend and you say, hey, have you got 8 minutes? And that's an indication like, hey, I'm struggling.
You could prevent something. You could just prevent something.
Exactly.
And by the way, you and I have talked about this a couple of times, that our scars are invisible and men carry a lot of invisible scars and they lead to all kinds of demise of men.
Yeah.
how do we encourage them to come out more?
Well, you know, I'm doing a series building up to international on my Matrix Men on my socials, right? And I'm talking about positive masculinity.
Yeah.
There's so much noise about men and toxic masculinity and rubbish. It's garbage, you know. Understand the definition of masculinity. Somebody who's proud, who protects, who's brave, who provides, who mentors, who encourages, you know, a good person.
Yes.
You can't be a toxic masculine man. You can't be. It just doesn't make sense in the definition of the word. Exactly. Masculinity as a construct is an amazing construct. And I'm doing the series where I'm going, let's focus on the positives. And that's what they're saying in the conference as well. Let's focus on the positive.
And what works.
Exactly.
And how you encourage men to come out more to events like this, just to share and listen. Because I think this is character building, but also it just builds resilience among men. Eh?
Exactly. Our big thing is that this is kind of a lead up, and what Dr. John Carney said in this thing, he says, we mustn't come back next year and do the same thing, speakers, whatever. We need to report back and say, hey, this is what we've done.
Okay.
This is what we've
Especially
achieved.
in communities.
Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Not just in conferences.
Exactly. And there's so much that needs to happen. Restitution for our African people. You know, we need to start healing those wounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks into fatherlessness, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why have we got Santon, which is this amazing place, and across the road we got Alex, which hasn't changed since whenever, is what he said, you know? And I'm going, he's right, you know what I mean? And we're expecting good people to grow out of crap circumstances.
Yeah.
You know?
That's rubbish.
We need to, and how do we encourage people? Well, the only thing I can say is men get together, form groups where you don't talk about alcohol, cars, women, and rubbish, where you talk about what you're going through, real stuff, you know? You're not going to be like a woman. Nobody talks like a woman, right? Except you and I, maybe.
Except me and you.
Right.
Sometimes we do that.
Yeah. My wife,
because of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, my wife is like, who are you going to see? I'm going to see Stan. And she goes like, oh, that's going to be a long...
You remember the other day? I don't know what time
that Friday night. I got it past 9, dude. My wife was so pissed. This is supposed to be 5 to 6.
5 to 6, you know, you get
Yeah,
I was talking to that guy.
Yeah, him again. And like, yeah, right.
Yeah, but we had a good time. But listen, you and I have been doing a lot of work in corporate. How do we change the mindset in corporates, in organizations around helping men show up as full men? Because if there is damage in the mind at home, how they show up at work is impacted.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe talk to our listeners about that.
And I think we need to start talking about stories.
Okay.
I think our stories are powerful, right? Yeah. I mean, when you tell your story, now I've met your daughters today. I was like, it's you guys, right? Now I can connect it, right? And I tell my story, and that starts giving other people permission to tell their stories.
I think that's possible.
And we're starting to see this turnaround in corporates, and I'm noticing it now where they're starting to go, hang on a second, we've been talking about the ladies, talking about this, talking about that. It's time to start talking about the men.
Yeah.
And I think guys like you and me and a lot of the speakers here, we just need to keep plugging away at corporates and saying, hey, come on, you know, we need to be those role models. We need to be those people.
I mean, you and I have already started, and a lot of corporates are coming to us and saying, listen, can you come and talk to us again? I think it's a regime that needs to. Somebody phones me. They go, we're looking for a speaker. I go like, okay, cool. You know, she says, can you send us a thing? So I send a reel of the stuff I normally talk about. All the stuff that you know.
Which